Hey everyone. So, welcome to this thing I'm calling Trek Through the Wormhole, because I love a catchy title. Who doesn't love a catchy title? So, what this is a Trekkie, me's first time watching Stargate. I've been aware of Stargate, known about it, never taken the time to watch it. Meanwhile, I've been a die-hard Star Trek fan, or a Trekkie as we call ourselves, for most of my life. So now, I'm venturing out into strange new worlds, if you will, and I have started my journey through the Stargate universe. I started with the movie, and then I moved on to Stargate SG-1. And I gotta say, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite shows. The characters instantly become relatable. I feel like you connect with them really quickly. This is already becoming a crew that I feel almost a part of as a viewer, and I was honestly pleasantly surprised with how much I ended up liking this right off the bat, coming from the movie right into SG-1. I do feel like the real strength of this show is definitely in the core SG-1 team. I feel like the writers did a really good job developing this team of characters together, and so far like I've already mentioned, I'm already pretty connected to them and invested in their personal storylines. It does remind me very much of how you get connected and invested in all of the respective crews in the Star Trek universe. I think this show does an excellent job, especially in its very first season of SG-1, getting you this invested in all of their personal storylines. So far, my favorite character personally has to be Teal'c. He has quickly become the character I'm the most interested in, especially given the sacrifices he has to make to join the team and his ultimate motivations to help them stop and defeat the Goa'uld. He is, like I said, quickly become my favorite. I feel like out of all the characters, and I like them all, I feel like out of all of them though, his storyline is the one that I am probably the most invested in at this point, where I'm at in the first season of SG-1. I think I'm about 15 episodes in at this point, so a lot can still happen, but at this moment, Teal'c is my standout and favorite character for sure. Next up, we have Daniel Jackson. He's probably, if I had to rank them, because again, I like all of these characters, if I had to rank them, he's probably my second favorite, but he's probably the one that I relate with personally the most. I feel like I would probably be a lot like him in this situation. I would be very much interested in the why behind everything. I would very much be interested in the lore, if you will, the history. Like especially in the episode, for example, where they find essentially that universal language and how he was just so focused on preserving it, even to the point that he was going to leave himself behind. Unfortunately, I feel like that might be how I would react in a situation like that. I'm a big lore guy, love the lore. Another reason why I love this show so much. I feel like especially in its first season, it is not really held back on giving answers and expanding the universe and the lore and the world, essentially. It's really delved deep already in like the first 15 episodes of SG-1. Daniel Jackson's also funny because he gets himself in a lot of precarious situations, like more so than any other character, usually resulting in some sort of, he gets around, let's put it that way. Daniel Jackson gets around. Colonel O'Neill even makes a direct reference to this in one of the early episodes where he says something to the effect of, "Keep it up, Daniel, you're gonna have a girl on every planet." And then even after that episode, it just continues. I hope it's a continuing joke throughout the whole show, honestly, because it makes me laugh. But Daniel Jackson is definitely up there, personally relatable to me, because again, I'm all about the why, I'm all about the history of things. Of course, we got Colonel Jack O'Neill, who would be remiss not to mention him. Arguably the main character. Don't think there are really main characters, but his storyline is definitely pretty important. He's a great leader. Well, much like any of my favorite captains in Star Trek, I feel like I would follow Jack O'Neill into battle. I definitely said that in one of my other videos when I was first starting out my Stargate journey. He's a great leader. He's got good wit and humor about him, especially when you compare Richard Dean Anderson's performance to Kurt Russell in the Stargate movie. Jack O'Neill is great leader. I can see why anyone in the Stargate universe would want to be on his team. And then we have Captain Carter. I feel like, at least the point where I'm at in SG-1, she is the character that's the most underdeveloped as far as her backstory. I feel like every other character, at least again where I'm at in the first season of SG-1, has already gotten like a pretty good episode or a few episodes where we've delved into their, like specifically their personal backstory, like with Teal'c's family. We had that episode with those crystal beings where we delved more into O'Neill and the death of his child and his ex-wife. We've had ongoing revelations about Daniel Jackson, especially, with that episode where we get the follow-up with Catherine from the movie. Obviously, O'Neill and Jackson got some backstory reveals in the movie as well. But I feel like Captain Carter, again, at least where I'm at, has just not had much of her specific backstory revealed. We know a lot about her. We know things that she likes. We've heard tidbits about her family. I think she mentions being an aunt in one of the early episodes. So we know things about her. We know she's extremely intelligent. We know she's skilled, very skilled in combat. We know she and Daniel are both very science focused, exploration focused, history focused. But as far as her backstory, and I guess maybe her motivations, like we know of the other members of the core SG-1 team, I just don't know a lot about her. So I hope as I continue to watch that they do expand on her backstory and that we get more. Because again, I love this whole crew and I want to know more. And one thing I really like that I've already touched on briefly is how I really like the pace at which Stargate SG-1 has given reveals about the lore, expanded the universe just within its first season. It has not held back, but it also hasn't gone too fast. I feel like it's really balanced the serialized story elements with the episodic elements, very common for the time when it came out. I think it's balanced those very well, especially with the ever-growing Goa'uld threat. I think it's just done a good job merging the two. And again, I like the pace at which it's revealing things. I don't feel like it's too fast or too drawn out. As a whole, I've just been enjoying this ride. I've been enjoying learning more. I've been enjoying meeting all the different variations of humans that we get, and even the different aliens that we've gotten so far, like the Nox and Unas. It's just great overall. I'm enjoying learning more about the Stargate universe as I progress on my journey. And again, I've really enjoyed the balance between serialized storytelling and episodic storytelling. I like how we've, again, progressed the overall storyline with the Goa'uld, but we've also taken time to have each character have some standout moments or multiple standout moments. We've had some good episodes where even when they do progress the overall story arc, it still is an episode that stands on its own and can be looked back on individually, very akin to a lot of memorable Star Trek episodes, even within, Star Trek that is more serialized in nature, like Star Trek Enterprise or Star Trek Deep Space Nine with the Dominion War. I feel like Stargate is balancing those very well. We're learning more about the Goa'uld, but we're also getting different races and alien species and just good moments of character development for all of our core SG-1 team. Again, we still need a little bit more from Captain Carter, but I'm only 15 episodes into the first season, so we have plenty of time for that. And much like Star Trek, I'm enjoying the way Stargate explores themes of space exploration. I'm also really enjoying how they approach their philosophical quandaries and their moral dilemmas. I feel like it's comparable to Star Trek, but also because Stargate takes place in the present day, of course that's the 90s at this point in the show. I feel like it has a different kind of take on it, but it's still very hopeful and optimistic, and Stargate, especially the SG-1 crew, is trying to help people, but trying to stop the Goa'uld. Very similar to Starfleet. It definitely is more military focused when you compare Stargate Command to Starfleet in the Star Trek universe. Very more military focused, obviously. Again, that has a lot to do with it. It's in the present day timeline as opposed to a far off peaceful future, if you will. But I feel like their mission is still very hopeful. They're not just going out there conquering. They're trying to help. I love the concept of, it's been done in a lot of different science fiction, but I like, the concept of a lot of these groups they're running into are humans that were seeded among the stars. But I also like that we're getting other alien species in there. Like I already said, the Nox and the first host that we meet, Unas. I'm loving the way it deals with mythology as well, Egyptian mythology, Norse mythology. It's a lot of cool things that Stargate is bringing in. And I think one last thing I'll touch on is I actually do feel like if someone is new to Stargate like I was, that it is actually very beneficial to start with the movie. Even in light of its differences when you compare the movie to SG-1, especially obviously with the casting of O'Neill and Daniel Jackson, Kurt Russell and James Spader versus Richard Dean Anderson and Michael Shanks in SG-1. But I feel like it does help set a lot of important context, and there are a lot of direct references to the things that happen in the movie that SG-1 does a good job of explaining to someone who hasn't seen the movie, but I feel like it is important context. And that might just be me. I'm a completionist, I'm a lore fiend, but I do feel like if someone was new and they asked where they should start with Stargate, I would recommend starting with the movie. And even with its differences, it does a good job of setting the overall tone. It also, again, there's a lot of direct references to it with, what happens with O'Neill's child, why Daniel Jackson was left behind, who Skara is, who Sheree is. I think the movie does have its importance, even with its differences. It's still a great starting place. Even later in SG-1, we get continued things that, again, they do a great job of explaining to someone who might not have seen it, but there are moments where it does assume you've seen it. I feel like that a great example of this is the episode where we follow up on the Catherine storyline. We help her find her long-lost fiance, one of the first people to go through the Stargate. This directly picks up on her and Daniel Jackson's storyline from the movie. We have the locket that's shown at the very beginning of the movie that she gives Daniel, and then he returns to her through O'Neill when he stays behind in Abydos. So I think, again, SG-1 sets it up to where you can enjoy it without having done so, but I do feel like the movie adds a lot of important context, especially when it comes to episodes like this. So yeah, that's about all I have to say for now. Thanks for tuning in to my journey through the Stargate universe, trek through the wormhole, as I'm calling it affectionately. I'm going to continue doing updates on my progress through the Stargate universe and my thoughts as I continue to watch it. Like I said, I want more from some characters. I want to learn more about the universe, and I'm only 15 episodes into the first season. I'm not even done with the first season of SG-1 yet, so we have a lot more ground to cover. I'm going to take all of you along with me. If you want more, why don't you go ahead and follow along, like this video, give it a share. I have Star Trek content, fandom commentary, and stuff like this. Thanks for watching.